In this video, I'm going to show you how to design and model a surfboard fin in Fusion 360 using only an image. I make my own wake surfboards, and I worked out what I believe to be the easiest method to model and 3D print my own fins. As I struggled to find any other videos on the subject, I decided to make one. Whilst this video shows how to make a 5-inch fin with FCS mounting lugs, the same applies to any size fin and mounting method you may need. Remember to like and subscribe if you get anything out of this video. Okay, let's jump straight into it now. Now you all want to know how to do this as quick as possible, so I'm going to show you every single step without any hesitation, hopefully. Right, first thing we need to do is we need to assemble a new component. We're going to call this component, what should we call it? We'll call it a 5-inch FCS fin. Okay, that creates our new component up on the left-hand side here. Right. Now we need to create a sketch. First thing you need to build everything from sketches in Fusion 360. So create a sketch up here, and we need to tell Fusion 360 where we want to place this sketch. So you can see here we've got our top, front and right hand side. I want to create it from the right hand side of the fin. You can put it kind of where you like, whatever makes more sense to you. So we are now going to draw a sketch on this plane. So I want a picture of my fin. So I'm going to insert a canvas and insert from my computer this image, which I found online, which you can probably find yourself with a quick Google search. Now this canvas is asking where we want to put it. We want to put it on this face that we're looking straight at. It's a bit small at the moment, so we're going to grab this corner piece and we're just going to drag it out. So at the moment, this canvas is at the wrong size. It's not the size we want it to be, but handily, it has some measurements on it. So we're just going to OK for now, but find our canvas. We're going to find our canvas, we're going to expand out our fin in the list over here on the left, and then expand out our canvases, and here is our canvas. We know that because when we hover over it, it turns blue. Right click on that, and we're going to calibrate our canvas. We then get these little crosshairs. So we're going to calibrate against a known measurement. And we know this measurement here is 115.8 millimeters. So we're going to click at either end of this measurement. Click the other end here. Now at the moment it's saying it's 56 millimeters, so that's wrong. So we're just going to overtype it with our 115.8. We hit enter. That's going to expand our drawing out to now match the right scale. It's in the wrong place. I want this bottom corner down here to sit on the origin, which is where all the different planes meet in Fusion 360. It's basically our 0 point. So again, we're going to come up into our menu on the left and right click and edit the canvas. Brings us back to the screen that we had before. And now if we pick up this big square, we can just move our canvas anywhere we like. So let's zoom in a little bit so we can see what we're doing. Right, so we see on the right hand side we want the line to line up with the green line, and then we want the bottom of the fin to sit on the other axis. Okay, I'm happy with that. So this point down here is sitting on the origin. Right, once we're happy with our positioning of our canvas, we can OK that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to draw over it. So we're still in a create sketch. And the first thing I'm going to do is draw this bottom line of the fin along here. So I'm going to go up, I'm going to choose a line from the toolbar at the top. I'm going to go from our origin, it auto snaps to that origin. And then zoom in a bit, and we're going to put it where that comes down there. Once we're happy with that line, we'll click on the green tick, and that line's in position. Now, because we started that line from the origin, Fusion 360 knows its location and knows we want it to start from that 0 point. If we did a line just randomly anywhere else, it would be blue, because it wouldn't know unless we told it a dimension from a fixed point. It would be blue, and you can run into problems later on with that. It can move all over the place. So it's always best to start a project from an origin if it makes sense to. It's not a hard and fast rule, but it just makes things easier. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a box around this fin. Now, I'm not going to draw it in a normal line. What I'm going to do, I'm going to come over to the line type here and choose a construction line. Now this is just mainly for me, so I know that it's not actually part of the drawing. It's a line to help the construction, so it's like a reference line. And what I'm going to do, just going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to start from the origin, and I'm just going to put that box around, so it's going to be roughly over here. Now you can see down at the bottom there, highlighted in blue, the measurement across from left to right, and it's currently showing 115.425. We want that to be 155. We want that to be 155.9 because that's how big that box is. I'm basically just drawing over the box that's already there. If we then hit Tab, it locks in that dimension at the bottom, and it goes up to the dimension up on the right hand side, up on the left hand side. And we know from looking at the right hand side that we want that to be 115.8. So now we have a box that sits over the top of our fin to the outer dimensions of our fin. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line, not as a construction line. I'm going to draw and put the line over here somewhere at the moment. And I'm not going to set the length. I'm going to tab off of the length and set the angle to 145 degrees. Now, the only way that will move, because I've locked in the angle, I can only change the length. And I'm going to put the length on this line over here. And I'll show you why in a minute. Right, so now we have a couple of things, but what we are missing is an outline of our fin. So I'm going to take a fit point spline tool, and I'm going to make sure you start right on this corner where it's highlighted and snaps to the corner. Don't start anywhere else. And once we click there, we can then start tracing around our shape. Now, you don't have to be too perfect with exactly where this is going, but one thing you do want to do is link up with the end of the line that you just created. And for now, we're going to OK that. So all we have is a line along this curve. Now, if you weren't happy with the position in any of these, you can grab these little sort of T pieces at the end here. I can't remember what they're called. And you can actually tweak that line. I'm quite happy with it there. I might do some more in a minute. Right, another one I'm going to do, I'm going to come down here from the other corner, and I'm going to put one in. And it always helps to have kind of an intermediary point to help your curve. The next one is going to auto snap to the line if we get close enough. Now you see these lines aren't perfect, so hit Escape to come out of the fit point spline tool. And then now what you can do on these is you can pick up these little pieces and you can drag them around until that line fits where you want it to. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Right, now I'm going to come back to the fit point spline. Don't know why I struggled to say that. And I'm going to go from where we finished the line here, and we're going to start tracing around the rest of our fin. Now when you get to tighter curves, start doing the points a little bit closer to each other. You might have to keep moving your screen around like I am. Now, no, they're not set in stone. The only ones which are kind of set in stone are the ones where you click on a line, because it puts a coincident at that point and then you have to go and break that to move it. But I'm not going to be too picky because, let's face it, 0.5 millimeter here or there is not going to make a big difference to your fin. So then we get to the end, we click the little green tick to OK. Now hit Escape, takes you out of the fit point spline tool. Now have a little look at the ends and all the different parts. Pretty happy with the position of all those. But what you do want to do is the two fit point spline lines that you've put either side, you want to make them tangent to each other, which means basically there'll be a smooth curve between them. So click one, click the other, and it puts this tangent restraint on it. So it makes those two lines flow together. You want to do exactly the same over the other side. So again, click one, click the other, and here you go. Hit Escape to come out of your tangent tool. Right, we are now happy with the outside. We've got two separate areas of our fin. We're going to loft the two parts of the fin separately. If you try and do a loft all the way from one to the other, this part causes a problem. Imagine a loft like stretching a plastic bag over a shape. If you imagine stretching a plastic bag over this fin, you're going to have a piece of plastic bag that's going to go from here to here. We don't want that. So we're going to get Fusion 360 to treat it as two separate parts. So the only thing we haven't done is put on our little tags for the FCS mount at the bottom of the fin. Now you may not have these, but I'm going to put them on anyway because a lot of people will be making these for surfboards or for boards that have the FCS mounts in them. So choose a rectangle tool, just a nice basic rectangle. We're not going to do some construction lines. What we are going to do is let it snap to the bottom line of the fin. The rectangle needs to start on the bottom line of the fin. Let the cursor snap to that bottom line. Left click and draw out, and don't left click again because we're going to overtype the dimensions to lock in the dimensions of these tabs. So this dimension is 20.5, which is written down over here. And then the other dimension, which we tab to get to, is 13.45. Now, left click once we've locked in those dimensions, and you see that this line here is black because it knows that that line is parallel to this line, which is also black because it's locked into the origin. This vertical line here and this vertical line here are blue because it doesn't know where they're supposed to go because we haven't given a dimension from the origin. We'll do that in a minute. So for now, we'll just do exactly the same over here. We'll do a 20.5 tab to a 13.45, yeah, and then left click. So we should have the same here. The vertical lines are not dimensioned. So to do that, we're going to hit D on the keyboard and get the dimension shortcut. Choose this line here, and then go to the origin, and then we're going to put our dimension in. You see it's here, 14.75. Hit enter. That locks in both these vertical lines because it knows this vertical line is 20.5 away from this vertical line. So now we have black lines, Fusion's happy. Now, still in our dimension tool, we're going to click this line here. We're going to go to the next tab over because that's the dimension we have right here in the middle, which is 32. So left click again, 32 millimeters, hit enter. Right, now we have a dimensioned sketch. Now, our line that traces around the outside of the fin is blue because it would take quite a lot to dimension all these positions and we don't really care. We're kind of drawing them by freehand. So what we can do now is come back to our canvas, we can turn it off and we've got everything we need. We've traced everything we want from that canvas out onto this sketch. So we're done with this sketch for now. So we're going to hit finish sketch. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to pull the tabs out on the bottom and make them into bodies. So hit E for extrude on your keyboard and you'll get this little extrude tool up on the right hand side. Now what it's asking us to do is select the profile or profiles. And we want this one and this one. Now if we just rotate our sketch around, you can see this arrow is asking us how far we want to pull them out. We can make this as big as we like, but I'm making half a fin, so I want it to be half the width of those tabs. Those tabs need to be 6.5, so we're going to make these 3.25 millimeters. We just hit OK. Now, don't panic. It looks like the sketch is gone. It's actually, if we just expand out our sketches, it's just turned it off because it thinks we're done with it because we've done something with the sketch. We extruded out some bodies. It thinks we're done with it, but we'll just turn that back on. And all it did was hit it. So we are now going to create another sketch. This sketch is going to be at 90 degrees and it's going to determine the aerofoil of our fin. So create a sketch, choose the plane we're going to put it on. Now, what you have to be a little bit careful of, if you weren't paying attention, we know that this is, we can tell by where our fin is, but which is top, which is bottom. So just to be sure, if you come over to this cube on the right hand side, you can just click on the corner piece and it shows us like a 45-degree angle down onto both of our sketches now. So we're still creating a sketch on that same plane, that hasn't changed, but we're looking at it slightly differently. So the front of our fin is at the bottom. So we'll go back to our top view. And if you're not, if your sketch isn't directly on a plane, which we'll have in a minute, what you actually need to click is look at rather than the top view there. So if you're wherever you are, you can just click look at and it'll take you to your sketch. What I want to do, I want to mark on this sketch where the other sketch, the first sketch we created, intersects it. So I say intersect, I'm going to project. So in the create menu on the top left, come down to project include, click project. Now what this is going to do is put a mark on the sketch we're working on for any point that we choose. So I'm actually going to pivot around a little bit so we can see all these things. Right, I want this bottom line from the fin because we're going to draw from there. That's our center line of our fin. And I'm going to click this top face and this top face because I want to see those. And then I'm going to click OK. Right, I'm going to go back to look at. Now we're looking back at our sketch. We can select a 2-point rectangle, choose a construction line. And what we're going to do, we're going to put a box around it, which goes from that front intersect point and the rear intersect point. And then we choose the width of half of our fin. Now I'm going to make my fin 10 millimeters wide. So I'm going to choose this box to be 5 millimeters wide. Hit enter. And now we've got a box in construction line that goes round where we want our fin shape to be. So again, look at back to our sketch. So now I'm going to take a fit point spline again, and I'm going to draw. Okay, if you get this, if you've forgotten to click the line type off of construction, you can just come over here and do it anytime, and the line you're about to draw will switch back. So I'm going to draw. I want something to kind of end up over here somewhere with a nice smooth curve. So let's give it a point here and then a point here. I'll select OK. If you hit escape at this point, you can then pick up these points. You can move them around wherever you like. So play about them, get the shape you want for the front of your aerofoil. Now what I want is I want the two sides to flow into each other at this bottom section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this little handle. I'm going to select the horizontal vertical constraint. And what that does is it makes sure that the end of this line ends completely horizontally, which will flow directly into the other side when we mirror this. Okay, so hit escape to come out of that. And just have a little look at the profile of the front. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So then I'm going to do the back. So again, fit point spline. So we have our intersect point here. And then I want to just miss this back corner, because if we have a look at the general profile, you think, yeah, I want it to be kind of about here, but with a slight curve to it, so it just misses this point. I would say don't put it on this point because it will stay tied to it. So come just outside of it and then pick a point down here where you want your shape to continue. Again, click the green tick. And now you need to have a look at this and just see if you like the shape. So we've got a bit of a curve there, a bit of a curve here. I'm still in the fit point spline. I'm just going to try and get out of that. I don't know why it's still in that. So you can bring that a little bit further down here. So then we've got this back part here flowing nicely into this part here. But what I am going to do is connect both of these with a solid line. And then I want these to be a nice smooth flow together, all these lines connected. So what you need to do is hit the tangent constraint and give a tangent constraint between your rear curve and the straight section in the middle, and then between your front curve and the straight section in the middle. And so here it puts on a tangent constraint. So those lines all flow nicely together now. Now, as you see, I hit escape to come out of that. We've got a profile here. Because it highlights blue when you go over it, it means that it's a closed in profile, which means it's all good to be used for a loft. If it wasn't blue, it would mean that there's a break in the perimeter line of the profile somewhere. So if there is, if yours doesn't highlight blue, you need to go and find that and make sure that you've clicked on the proper intersect points at each end, and that these lines are intersecting the box that you've put round, and that everything's connected by a solid line. Okay, we can now finish that sketch. If we click home, we can see where we're at. So we have a profile for the bottom shape of the fin, and then we're ready to do our next one. I did forget to do one thing, so we need to go back in, right click on any of the lines in that sketch, or click over here on our sketch 2 and then right click and edit sketch. Now what I want to do, all will become clear later on. I want to put a line from this rear point going out from the sketch. So there's no, see it's not clicking there. It means there isn't an intersect point on this sketch. So we need to put one in. So we need to create, intersect, and you see where it highlights now red. Click or create an intersect point between those sketches. We can then use our line tool and put a line up, and I'm going to make it 20 millimeters long. Hit enter, and now our sketch is actually finished. So now we have our first 2 sketches of 3 done. The next thing we're going to do is we need to put a plane that lines up with this line that we put through the middle of the fin here. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to construct a plane at an angle. So select plane at angle from the construct menu, and now it's asking over here for a line. And that's why we did this little line over here. It gives us an axis for our plane to pivot around. So I'm going to move looking at the right hand side, and when I change this angle here, if I zoom in you can see that a bit better. What we're doing is we're lining up that axis with this line here, which we already put in, and that's 35 degrees in this instance. And now this orange square shows that we've put a plane. So originally you have 3 different planes. We're putting in a 4th one at an angle that we've chosen. So we're going to create a sketch, and instead of choosing one of these 3 planes, we're going to choose our new plane. And then what that does is it turns the view. See if I can show you. So if we rotate from that view, you can hopefully see that all these lines now are on the plane of this line here, this blue highlighted line now. So if we go back to looking at that, see if we just went and looked back or on the top, we're not actually lined up with that plane. So that's why you want to click look at over here in the sketch palette. So we're going to do the same thing that we did before, in that we want to see the intersect points where the plane which has the fin profile intersects with that plane and this line. So we're going to create an intersect, and then we're going to click on this outside one. You see it's got these 2 red dots that line up with that line here and here. So once we've clicked that, it will then put 2 purple dots, which are the intersect projections on our plane. So we're going to again look at, that puts us directly down on top of this sketch. And I'm going to do the same thing. Let me just turn off the bottom one just to make it a little bit easier. And I'm actually going to hide the bodies in the bottom there just to make things a little bit simpler. Now, this is halfway along our fin. Now at the point of our fin, we actually want the thickness to drop to 0, or I do anyway. You can obviously do what you like, but what I'm not going to do is put this construction line box, which is what I did on the other plane, I'm going to do here. I'm not going to make it 5mm. I'm actually going to make it 3mm. Now I haven't gone half of the 5mm because I don't want it to be a linear line. I actually want it to curve a bit through in the middle of the fin. So make that 3mm the length. I just got it to tie in with the other projection. So now that box lines up with the front and rear of our fin directly on the lines where it cuts through. That's why we did the intersect. Right, so now we've just got to draw a profile. So we're going to look at, again, annoyingly, it looks at the bottom of it, not the top, so we have to keep moving it. Right, let's get that in a good position. Right, so fit point spline tool, and we're going to draw a little profile on here. Again, it's a construction line at the moment, so I'll turn that off. Now I want this to come back a little bit more by the time we get to halfway down the fin. So let's try that again, green box. Now again, I want this, I don't want to double this because we'll end up with like a weird kind of M shape at the front of our fin. So again, I want to choose the horizontal vertical constraint so that the two sides of the fin are going to fit together nicely. Hit escape to get off of that. And then I'm going to make this line a tangent to the edge of this box, and then hit escape to come out of that. And then I'm going to fit point spline again, choose the very rear point. So look, you need to let it snap to that point to know that it's going to line up perfectly. It's really important that it lines up perfectly for when we do our loft. Otherwise, it will just say that the rail doesn't intersect the profile. So we're going to make sure that does that right. So now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put this up here somewhere. Let's say here. Now I'm only doing one position there. Oh, no, that's not done what I wanted it to do. Let's try that again. Left click here, left click here. Right. I missed and put another fit point spline in. Right. When I make this line a tangent with this line, see the way it curves it, and you get a nice smooth curve all the way from the back edge to this point I put in here. And then I can just draw a line between here and here. Now remember what I was saying earlier, this looks like a profile, but when I hover over it, even when I escape out of this tool, it's not changing color. And that's because on this particular line, on this particular sketch, if I turn off all the other sketches, there isn't a solid line from here to here. So it's not a closed sketch. So what we'll do, sorry, it's not a closed profile, not a closed sketch. We're going to select a line, make sure it's not construction, and just simply draw a line from here to here. Now let's change color. So when I escape and come over it, we then get it, the whole profile turning blue. Don't come off of your sketch until you've got that. If you're not getting that, then check all the perimeters and make sure it's all closed in and it's a continuous loop. Okay, so that sketch is finished. We've finished the sketch. Now when we click home, I'm not seeing everything because I turned all my sketches off. Turn all my sketches back on. So now we have 3 sketches. We have our main outline profile of our fin in 2 pieces. We have the bottom profile and we have the middle profile. Now, this is where the fun starts with the loft. We're going to create a loft. Now, what do we need to do in a loft? We need to set profiles. Our profiles are going to be the base, but also select the top edges. Make sure you've got everything in this whole profile, the bottom of the fin. And then our next profile is going to be the middle profile. the object we're creating is not visible. It's because I turned bodies off. I need to turn bodies back on. So look what it's done here. So naturally, the profile, the loft has connected the two profiles in a straight line. So imagine stretching a plastic bag, like I said before, it's just going to do it in straight lines, unless you give it a structure by telling it rails to follow. So down here we see rails. If you click on this little pointer, it then lets you select rails. Oh, rail is not smooth. Yes. It's because we've got chain selection. What it's done, it's selected this entire outline. Now this is the problem you'll have if you create this outline profile in your original sketch all in one. If you get this rail is not smooth problem, it's because you've selected, oh God, it's done it again. Okay. Close that rail, unclick chain selection. Then you can click the individual parts of those rails for that profile. Now we have what we want. We have a loft, nice and smooth, following all the lines we'd like it to, the rails that we've told it to follow. Okay, so we will OK. We let it join, so it's joined to these bottom tabs. So we now have one body. These are all connected together. Right, if you're enjoying any of my content, why not consider supporting the channel by clicking the Buy Me a Coffee link down below. Don't worry, you don't have to actually buy me anything. Just click follow and you can see what I'm up to next. Now we're going to go straight into do a second loft. But look, because we've finished with that sketch, it's turned it off. So let's turn sketch 3, which is the middle profile, back on, just to make it easier to see. So we're going to straight away create another loft. Now the profile we're going to come from is the top of the shape, the body we just created. And then the next one, you think, well, there isn't one over here. It's actually going to create, you can create a loft to a profile that's at 90 degrees. So if we click here, it looks like we're done because it's created this profile. But the join between the two, unless we are masters of creating the perfect profile in the middle, which to be fair, I mean, it's not bad. It's just got a little bit of a dip in the middle. It's difficult to see unless I turn the sketches off. So we're just looking at that profile. It's just not that smooth right in the middle. So what we're going to do is turn the sketches back on to make it a little bit easier to see. Right, I accidentally clicked off the loft. So we're going to do that loft again. So we're just simply mouse issues. Right, we're going to click that one. We're going to click that one. Let it do its loft. Now, what we want is we want these two to flow together a little bit nicer. So up here, right, we're going to create, so now we're going to create our second loft. We need to click the small profile in the middle here, and then we're going to create a loft to the profile at 90 degrees to it, which is the side profile. We want it to join, we want it to all be one body. I'm going to click OK. Now, if we turn all our sketches off, we've got a pretty good fin there. So we've got a line in the middle. Now, there's a couple of ways to get rid of that line. If you want to get everything perfect, what you'll need to do from the beginning is to create more than one of these lines. So what I did on another one is I actually put 3 in. So I put one across here and I put one across here. That way you can make a much smoother loft, but like so you create 4 different lofts and it creates a much smoother arc between the end of the fin here and the start of the fin down here. But because we're only working with one at the moment, what we can do is we can go in and we can play with that until we get it kind of how we want it. So what we need to do is kind of work out what's going on with it, what we think we need to do. So I would say it's just a little bit too tight. So what we'll do is we'll bring it out a little bit. So we can turn our sketches back on. Right, so sketch 3, we're going to go back in and edit the sketch. This is the good thing about Fusion 360. If you right click on this sketch, you can edit the sketch and it will take the timeline back to when you last edited this sketch. So we'll turn off the base sketch. So we're just working with this one. In fact, I'm going to turn off the bodies as well to make it a bit clearer. Right, so I'm going to change this 3mm to 3.5. When I do that, it's going to automatically pull everything else out. And all you need to do is click Finish Sketch, turn on our body again, and we can just see the difference. Okay, we've still got a line. And I would say it just needs to come out a bit more at the back than it does at the front. Now you can carry on playing with this to your heart's content. Just keep going back in and doing it over and over again. What I'll do this time is just grab this point, bring it back here somewhere, finish sketch, and have another look. Now, you see there's still a bit of a line there, but that's the simplest way of creating a fin. Now, let me show you one where I have more sketches in it. Actually, before we go any further, we should have done this right at the beginning. Save it. Save it somewhere that makes sense. Create a new folder if you need to. I've got plenty of these. So we'll do a 3-inch FCS fin. Okay. Okay, so here is one where I put in far more profiles and you get a much smoother transition across the whole fin. Everything else was done the same. I just put more in. The more you put in, the smoother you get that whole blend between all those different profiles. If I turn on my sketches in this one, you can see they will be later sketches, I imagine. Oops, if you turn on the main thing. So you can see there, literally just did more. I did 4 instead of just 1. And that enabled me to just gently blend them all together. And it's not a huge amount more work, but it does take a little bit more time. Everything else was exactly the same in this one. Okay, so going back to our one middle profile fin, the only thing we need to do now is turn on our sketches. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little chamfer on the bottom edges of these mounts so they fit in the holes nicely. So we'll click the fillet tool and then select all the edges. Now I only want to do the outside edges because the inside edge is going to be glued together to the other side of the fin because we are only making half of a fin. Once we've done this, we'll then mirror the two parts. And let's give it a 0.5mm radius. Perfect. So we can see we've got a nice radius in all these corners there. So let's click home, take us back to home position. So we've got half of a fin, but the other half is flat. So all we're going to do, go to the Create and Mirror tool, and make sure up here where you've got type, it's bodies, not faces or anything else. There's lots of different things you can mirror, components, bodies, faces, but we want bodies. We want to mirror this body. Select that body, and then the mirror plane, you can either select the plane down here, or you can actually select the face, the flat face, which is what I'm going to do here. And we want it to join because we want it to put those two bodies into one, and then we are left with a fin. Now, all the imperfections in this fin, you might look at this and think, oh, it's going a little bit too thin too soon, and that's all because we've only got one intersecting plane in the middle. So put more in, just follow exactly the same method, put different planes. I'll go back here and turn on all my construction planes. You can see I put multiple planes, all of that same axis, and all those planes line up. If I go on the right, all those planes line up with all these lines. It's just repetition. The more you put in, the smoother the transition between them all. And that is how we turn a drawing of a fin into a fin. What I am going to do at this stage, I'm actually going to back up a little bit, and I'm going to undo the mirror. Now, there's a couple of ways of doing this. You can just click undo at the top left, undo mirror, or right click down in your timeline, mirror feature, edit feature. What I want to do for being able to print these in two halves, I'm going to change the join to new body. What that will do is create over here two bodies. So, you know, which side's left, which side's right, depends which way up your surfboard is. Let's assume that the highlighted blue section there is left hand, so we will do 5" FCS left hand. And then the other side we're going to call, surprisingly, 5" FCS right hand. Right, now we have two bodies. Let's turn them both into components. So we right click on them, create bodies from components. Now we have a left hand and a right hand that we can then right click on, save as STL. What is this? This is the JH. I've clicked J instead of L. Left hand. God. Right, let's try that again. Right click, save as STL. 5" FCS left hand. We'll do the same for the right hand. Save as STL. "5" FCS right hand. There we go. We have saved the two halves. Then we'll open up our slicing software. I'm using Cura. We'll open up one of the sides. So let's start with the left hand. Now it's going to put it in the same orientation that we drew it in. Now, all you have to do for that is click on it so it's selected. Click on the rotate and rotate it. Now that's bendy side down, we don't want that. So flat side down. And if it wasn't sitting perfectly flat, which it is, all you've got to do is click on this lay flat and it will pull it flat, just in case you didn't know. So now we have half of our fin sitting in our slicer. If you've never used slicing software before, you want to get kind of, your default settings will usually give you something decent, but you want to play around. Don't make this your first print. Play around with some of the calibration things online. Once you know all your settings, you slice it. It's going to take 56 minutes to print a half, and then check out all your layers. So layer 1, move up through the layers. This is a little bit of infill, but not a lot. And there we have it. You can just save that to file, print it out, and you're good to go. I'd advise printing any fins out of something like PETG. It makes them much stronger. PLA fins wouldn't be much use as they wouldn't be very strong, and also they wouldn't survive very long in the sun. Once you have your two fin halves printed, you need to bond them together with something like a polyurethane glue. And you can even skin them in fiberglass if you so desire. Fins can make a huge difference to how surfboards handle, and now with your newly acquired skills, you can take a whole handful of cheap 3D printed fins to the water to try out. If you like this video, then obviously hit like and subscribe, but also drop me a comment down below and let me know of anything you'd like me to show you how to design. I'm far from an expert in Fusion 360, but I like a challenge. Thanks for watching.